Okay, we have a bit of a mic situation here. Let me see. Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Kika. Today I want to share and show you how to knit this striped scarf that I'm currently wearing. It's called In My Stripes Era Scarf. This is a really fun, I would say, a pretty beginner-friendly project. It's not totally for beginners, so it's good that you've knitted a bit, but I'm gonna share and show you the techniques that are involved. So I'm sure that you can, if you follow along this tutorial, you're gonna be able to make your own In My Stripes Era scarf, or why not knit it as a gift for somebody. This has been one of my absolute favorite accessories, especially in this kind of in-between season time where it's not really yet cold enough to be wearing like a full-on scarf, but it's still not warm enough to not have anything around my neck. So this is a small triangular scarf. This uses 2 different colors, so it's also, I think, really fun to just think about color combinations, and it's also a perfect scrap yarn project. So if you only have like a random skein here and there, you can use that for In My Stripes Era scarf. I don't know about you, but I have been super inspired by just this scarf frenzy that I feel is going on at the moment in the trends and just on Instagram. And there are so many really fun scarf patterns out there. And I really started to crave something colorful because now it's very dark and gray here in Finland where I live. And then I thought another kind of scrap yarn project also that just allows me to use some of those random skeins that I have in my stash. So this one, I've knitted it on fingering weight yarn, but you could technically actually knit this on whatever type or whatever thickness yarn. Obviously then the sizing or the measurements will be a little bit different, but it's, well, I'll get into it more soon, but I've used fingering weight yarn on 3mm needles. Again, you can always size up or size down depending on if you're a tight knitter or a loose knitter. I would say when it comes to accessories, especially, gauge isn't super crucial because it's not gonna like fit on your body. So if you don't hit correct gauge, it's not really a biggie. But what I would say, because this is a scarf, you want to have like a nice drape. So I think it's important that it's not too stiff or dense. So I would rather size up your needle so you get a bit more flowy fabric than go down and when it's very dense, because then you don't get that nice drape that we want to be able to wear our pretty little scarf. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you every step and all the techniques you need. So I'm aware that in a sense, you probably can knit this without the pattern. I'm gonna be totally honest, but of course I would be super happy and appreciate if you still go ahead and download the pattern that I've written for this. Also, I think it makes it easier to just follow along, and if you want to knit this multiple times and just make sure that you have all the information you need, then I'll pop the link in the description below, both to my Ravelry shop, where you can download the pattern for In My Stripes Era scarf, and also to my own web shop, kutavakika.com. But yeah, I will be very transparent. I'm gonna show you everything that goes into the pattern. But of course, it would make me super happy if you also go and just support my work and go ahead and download the pattern for yourself. All right, so let's talk about what you need. So this pattern, I would say, is really suitable if you've knitted a bit. Maybe you are up to learning some new techniques, so you're not like maybe a total beginner, but you've done some projects. There's nothing super fancy or super weird. It's very, very easy to get the hang of it. Essentially, you work this flat, so you knit it back and forth, but I always still use circular needles because I think it's just like ergonomically more comfortable. And then you have the stripes, which makes it very fun and addictive also, I think, to knit, because you can see your progression all the time. So I knitted my mine, I think in like less than a week or so. Obviously it's like knitted on pretty small needles, 3 millimeters, that's a US 2.5. Again, you can choose also, of course, to work it on a larger size needle or with a thicker yarn, then you'll get a bit of a thicker scarf and a larger scarf probably. But I really wanted to have this like to be kind of this like mini scarf that I can wear like this. And then we're just gonna increase on each row at the beginning and the end by doing a knit front back that I'll show you. Then you have a little rib at the end, and then the only part which I think is very exciting, like technically also, but maybe requires a little bit more, I would say, focus, is when we're gonna pick up stitches around the entire edge, and then we're gonna knit a rib and then fold it in half and attach on the wrong side by binding our stitches together with our pickup edge. And I will show you everything, so don't you worry about it, but that's maybe the only place where it's good to be a little bit focused, and maybe it helps if you have a little bit of knitting experience under your belt, just because that might otherwise be maybe a little bit too finicky or frustrating. So just like a heads up, but again, you can watch this video first, see what's coming up, then go and get the pattern, and then you can watch this video over and over again. So I do hope that you find value in this video and that you will enjoy this. I am now going to get over to my work area here and just show you all the steps. So enjoy, and I hope you find this valuable. In my Stripes Era scarf, it's knitted from the tip of the scarf towards here the top, and we're gonna start here by casting on just a few stitches, and then we're gonna increase on each row to get this really nice fan-like triangular shape. And you want to decide which color you want to have as this rib or your edge color basically, and then you're gonna choose the other colors and not that color to start. And we're just first gonna work it flat here, up all the way here on 3 millimeter US 2.5 needles, and this is knitted in a fingering weight yarn. Then we're gonna switch to smaller size needle for the rib here, just bind off using the standard bind off method. When we knitted the entire scarf here and also the rib, then you're gonna be picking up stitches here along all of these, the increase edges. So the increases are going to be hidden, and pick up stitches and then knit a rib to double length. Then it's going to be folded here towards the wrong side row. And then we're gonna bind off all of these stitches together here with the pickup edge. So it actually becomes really neat looking also here on the wrong side. So because it's a scarf, the wrong side will also inevitably show when you wear it. So then we do this to make sure that it looks nice on both sides. In my Stripes Era scarf, it's knitted in a fingering weight yarn. Now you can choose, for example, just a fingering weight yarn. You just need like one skein per each color, so this is a perfect scrap yarn project. I'm going to choose Filcolana Vilja. This is alpaca yarn, which is really nice because it has a little bit of a fuzz in itself. And then I'm gonna pair it with Sunday by Sundays Garn, which is also a fingering weight yarn, but this is a merino, so it's not as fuzzy, but I think together it will work nice. This is not my usual color combo, but I felt inspired to try something different. And I'm gonna start with the color that I don't want to have for my edges. So I've decided that for my edges, I want to have it in brown, so I'm gonna start by casting on with the other color, so my red color. Now, since this is a scarf, getting gauge isn't super critical. This is an accessory, so the usual, that you would make a sample. In this case, I don't feel gauge is as crucial, and actually you could also use, for example, 2 strands of lace weight yarn or even a DK weight yarn or a sport weight yarn. Then you might just want to go up a needle size or 2 to make sure that you have a fabric that you like, and obviously you'll get a scarf that is larger than, but that's kind of the beauty of this pattern, that you can kind of use it for whatever you have in your stash, and then you can just decide to work less stripes for the entire scarf. All right, let's begin by casting on 5 stitches with the long tail cast on method. So I'm just going to do a slip knot. So I've left a tail of approximately 30 centimeters, like 12 to 15 inches or so. Then we do a slip knot, like that. And then I'm using a 3mm needle. You could also use a 3.5mm needle, especially if you're a tight knitter. I feel like I'm a pretty relaxed knitter, so 3mm works well for me. Then I grab my yarn, I take my index finger and thumb through here, and I open these yarns up so that I can cast on using the long tail cast on method. You can also use any other cast on method that you want. The edge here is going to be hidden. So if you have another cast on method that you prefer, then please, you can go ahead and use that as well. So we cast on five little stitches. Then I'm gonna turn my work and do some setup rounds here. So I'm going to be purling all of these 5 stitches here at the beginning. And make sure to tighten here that first stitch. Like that. Then I turn again. I work without any increases yet, just knit these 5 stitches. Like so, and then I'm gonna turn around again. All right, and I've purled. All right, so those are the setup rounds done. Next, we're gonna bring in our second yarn, and we're also gonna start shaping the scarf, and we're gonna work increase on each row, both at the end and at, both at the beginning and at the end. So both in the first and the last stitch of each row. So it's very simple to remember because it's just on each row. So I'm gonna grab my yarn, leave a bit of a tail, and get my needle here. No. I'm going to leave my first color. I'm not gonna cut this, I'm just gonna leave it here so it's gonna hang out for a bit while we work with this other color. And now we're gonna start to increase, actually already when we just join in this new color. And we're gonna do a KFB, which means knit front and back into the same stitch. So let me show you how to do that. So first I go in from the front, I would normally do, and I just grab my new yarn here and I take it through, but I don't yet let go of my stitch, but actually I'm gonna now knit the same stitch from the back. So I will just move my needle a little bit, and then I can locate here the back leg of that stitch, if you can see that, and I'm just gonna knit it here from the back as well. So that same stitch with this new color. And I take it through, so now I've essentially knitted the same stitch twice, so I knitted it from the front and from the back. And then I let it go from the left needle. And then I'm going to knit all of these stitches until my last stitch, like so. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here. For the last stitch, I'm gonna knit front and back. So first I knit from the front as you would normally do. Then I bring my needle here to the back of the stitch, and I go in here, knit through the back loop basically, knit it again. So I've knitted the same stitch twice, and then I can go ahead and remove that from my left needle. Then we're gonna turn the work, and now we're gonna do exactly the same. And even though we are on the wrong side, we're just gonna knit front and back, always the first and the last stitch, because these edge stitches are gonna be hidden anyways in the final project, so it doesn't really matter that they are knitted on the wrong side, even though you could purl them, but it just wouldn't make any sense because this is just easier. So we're gonna knit front and knit back on the wrong side. And then I'm gonna purl until my last stitch. So here we reach the last stitch, and what you can do here, because we joined in this new yarn, you can make a little knot here. So here I have my last stitch on this purl row, and I'm just gonna knit front and knit back. And yeah, you can see it really wants to loosen up here. So I'm just going to be making a little knot. I'm gonna wrap this yarn that we joined in, just tie it around my red first working yarn, kind of loosely to make sure that that stays intact and it doesn't want to loosen up all the time. Each stripe is 4 rows in total, so we're gonna work those 2 rows once more. So I'm gonna knit front and back, still with the second color, and I'm gonna knit all the way to the last stitch, and then I'm gonna knit front and back as well there. Trying to work. So you can already see that it increases a lot. So we're gonna start to shape it this triangular shape. And again, you don't have to worry about it looking kind of, well, a little bit messy, because again, we're gonna hide this under our nice, neat pickup edge in the end. So now each stripe is 4 rows. Now I'm ready to switch colors. So I'm just gonna grab my yarn here, make sure that I don't tighten it too much when I start to work with it, but that it can kind of lay relaxed here against this, the edge here. And again, knit front and back. And make sure that you kind of leave a little bit of space so it's not too tight here. I want to share a little tip that you can use if you want to essentially prevent having this loop here. So you can basically, on between rows 2 and 3 for each stripe, you can kind of hook this other yarn that is just hanging out there by basically first, when you start your 3rd row for each stripe, you're gonna just knit front that loop, and then you're gonna twist this yarn. So you twist them like so, so that yarn kind of gets hooked in there. And then I knit back that same stitch, and then I can go ahead and leave that go. And then you just want to make sure that you again untwist them. So like that. So you kind of twist 2 times, and then that will hook that other yarn in place so you don't have these big loops. I have now worked my entire scarf, so I worked the amount of stripes I need. Then here I've switched to a smaller size needle and just done a rib according to the pattern, and then just bound off using the standard bind off method. So at the moment everything is just kind of curling together, so especially this edge and here also, but don't worry, once we block this, that is going to take care of it. So blocking is when you soak it in water and then you just let it or lay it to dry flat. But before that, we have to still do the edges. So we are going to be picking up stitches here along the entire increase edge, both here this edge and also the other edge. And I'm also going to use a smaller size needle for that. All right, so you're gonna turn your scarf so you have the tip of the scarf facing upwards, and we're gonna start picking up stitches here at this edge. We're gonna start picking up stitches already from the rib here. So I'm gonna insert my needle. There's a knit column here. So ideally you can locate that, insert your needle, and then I'll just grab some new yarn, wrap that around and pull it through. And here I'm gonna pick up 6 stitches here from the rib, this edge. So the pickup rhythm is 1 stitch per row here. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm gonna start picking up stitches here from the edge, and I want to pick up stitches so that I hide these increases. And the pickup rhythm is 1 stitch per 1 row, which basically means that you're gonna be picking up 4 stitches per stripe. I find that's maybe a little bit easier to remember. So I'm gonna insert my needle, and I mean, this isn't like super exact science, just kind of try to poke it in somewhere where you think it looks good, because now you don't have really single column to follow. But 4 stitches per stripe, so that's 4. And then you're just gonna continue along all the way. And in the pattern, you will see how many stitches you need all in all, but if you just follow this pickup rhythm, it should work out. Also, if you wanna make the scarf smaller or larger, you might have less or more stripes, then you can just follow this pickup rhythm of 1 stitch per row until you get to the tip, and there we're also going to pick up 1 stitch per 1 stitch. I've now picked up stitches from the entire first edge, so there's a lot of stitches to be picked up. And now I'm here at the tip, and here I'm just gonna be continuing, so I'll just pick up 1 stitch per stitch here. So these are the stitches that we cast on at the beginning. Now I need to try to get my needle in there and just try to pick up those stitches the best you can, like so. Let's see there. And again, you want to try to pick up stitches so that you kind of hide that cast on edge like that. I think that's 5 stitches. I mean, if you miss a stitch or 2, it doesn't really make a big difference. The only thing you want to make sure is that you have an uneven number of stitches all in all, so that you can do the rib. And now I'm going to start picking up stitches from the other edge, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my needle, make sure I don't lose any needles here. So I'm just going to kind of cinch them together, pull out my needle a little bit so I get some leeway, almost like magic loop, so that I can continue here, just because we have this kind of sharp angle here, so then it's just easier. And then I start going up, working my way the other edge. So again, here I'm gonna try to insert my needle in a way so that I kind of hide this edge that is not super neat, and you want to try to always pick up 4 stitches per stripe, so that's theoretically 1 stitch per 1 row, but the rows aren't super easy to identify, so it's maybe easier to think of it like that, so that you want to pick up 4 stitches per stripe. And now you see I picked up a stitch here and kind of created a hole, so I'm actually gonna redo that and instead pick up a stitch from this here. So all the time I'm trying to be mindful of where I pick up my stitches, just to make sure that I don't get any gaps or holes. Okay, I have now picked up stitches from the entire edge. It's a little hard to see because it's all scrunched up here, just because the needle is not as long as the actual scarf length. But when you've picked up the amount of stitches that you need, and remember you want to have an uneven number of stitches, we're just gonna turn work. So we're gonna work a setup row from the wrong side of the work, and first we're just going to be purling 2 stitches. Then I'm gonna knit 1, and then we're gonna repeat purl 1, knit 1 up until the last 2 stitches, and then you're gonna do 2 purl stitches again. So you have those 2 purl stitches that on the right side are gonna be 2 knit stitches, and instead of having 1 knit stitch at the end there at the edge, I prefer to have 2 because I just feel like it creates a bit of a neater edge, since this is going to be there at the edge of the scarf essentially. So we're gonna do the setup row, and then you're just gonna essentially work knit 1, purl 1, rib. So you always work the first and last 2 stitches, knit stitches on the right side, sorry, and purl stitches on the wrong side. You're gonna work the edge rib until it measures approximately 3 centimeters, so that's 1.25 inches or so. And you wanna end so that you've just worked a wrong side row. So now I would start a right side row, but now we're gonna actually bind off the stitches, and I'm gonna bind them off and attach them here on the wrong side. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. Also a little note here, I realized I worked this top edge rib a little shorter than the actual original one, so the pattern says to work it a little bit longer than I did. I don't know, I had some weird, I don't know what happened, I just decided to bind off a bit earlier, so if you're confused about that, that's what happened. But of course you can choose to the amount that you want to work this top edge rib in. But just a little FYI there. So we are going to start binding off stitches. So we're gonna fold it in half. And One thing that is a little tricky and that I want to just make sure that you pay attention to is that these, you want to make sure that they are aligned. It's very easy to start picking up stitches in a way so that this doesn't align. And I'm gonna share my own tips for how to do this, but just to stay mindful about that. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry, I will explain this in more detail in just a second. But so this is what we're gonna start to do now. All right, so let's begin. So we are gonna have our wrong side facing us, and now I'm gonna just move or make sure that I have my working yarn here in the back. And then the first step is I'm going to be picking up a stitch with my right hand needle or my extra needle from just below the pickup edge here. So I'm gonna go in there and pick up a stitch, and I'm going to transfer it onto my left hand needle. Then I'm gonna see where my working yarn is. That's an end, don't wanna use that. I'm gonna use my working yarn, and I'm gonna be knitting these two stitches together. So that stitch that I just picked up with the first stitch. Knit them two together. All right, then the next step is I'm gonna knit this next stitch, just normally, like so. And then I'm going to be pulling the first stitch over the second stitch. So as you would do when you use the standard bind up method, just gonna pull that first stitch over the second stitch. And then I'm gonna repeat. So I'm gonna go in here and pick up a stitch just below the pickup edge again and transfer it onto my left hand needle. Knit these two stitches together. So the stitch that I just picked up together with one stitch from my left hand needle. Knit those two together, and then I'm again gonna pull this first stitch over that second stitch. And this is what we're gonna be repeating. So again, I'm gonna go and pick up a stitch here, just below the pickup edge. And I mean, here you have to be just kind of use your own knitter skills to try to find a good place to pick up that stitch. And then I'm gonna knit these two together and pull the first stitch over the second stitch. And now what I want you to be mindful about is every so often you want to check that you fold it basically so it aligns. So what I mean by that is that, let me see here. So for example, now next I am working this stitch that is a knit stitch here on the wrong side. Don't know if you can see that. So this is a knit stitch here on the wrong side. And I can see now that it goes really on the, so it kind of fastens, or what do you say, like its origin is here. So I really need to pick up stitches now from way here and not pick up stitches from too far along the edge already, because of course that will then skew the whole thing, if you know what I mean, or if that makes sense. So make sure, for example, that here you have this knit column, that you're also picking up a stitch from below actually that knit column as you go along, because otherwise it will start pulling it and it won't be aligned kind of directly on top of each other. Hope that made sense. And here in the beginning it's a little finicky, but you will definitely get the hang of it. What you can also do is, I've seen some people thread in an contrasting color yarn with a little bit of a, you know, just a temporary kind of lifeline situation type thing there, and that will make it easier to see that they align. But I won't do it because there's so many stitches here, so I won't do it for this, but that's something that you can do, of course. Here you can start to see already this really nice edge forming, and I definitely recommend that you have enough light when you do this. And I also wanted to give just like one more tip, that when you pick up stitches from your contrasting color stripe, so in my case that would be from the red stripe, I try to still choose these strands where I've worked with the brown essentially, because if I would pick up here the red, I think it would mess up with just the nice brown color here. So even when you are working here or picking up stitches from your contrasting color stripe, try to find, you know, because there's gonna be these little loops and strands here of the other color, so choose those instead, I would say. And also here,
I've actually now gotten into a bit of a rhythm of it, and I realized that every time I pick up a stitch, so here I have this knit column you can see, and every time I can just like check. So I have this knit column, I can check, okay, I need to pick up a stitch here just below that knit column or somewhere here in this area, just to make sure that I don't get that skewed line that I'm sure many of you now got scared of and overwhelmed because I talked about it so much. But actually when you get into a bit of a rhythm and flow with this, it's really satisfying and pretty easy to just see that you stay on track. So next I have a purl line here. Those are always a little harder to see, but I can kinda suss out that I need to pick up a stitch from right about there and transfer that onto the left needle and just knit those two together, and again pull that first stitch over the second stitch. So yeah, this is something that you want to have good light for. Make sure to not bind off too tightly and then just go around the entire scarf edge and then just cut the yarn and pull that last bit through.
Here is my finished In My Stripes era scarf. I blocked it and then I woven in all of the ends. I hope you enjoyed this video, this tutorial. If you want to see more of my photos, you can come and say hi. I'm over at Kika on Instagram, and I will also put the links to download the pattern both at kika.com and on Ravelry in the description below. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And also remember to use the hashtag #InMyStripesEraScarf if you post on Instagram so we can come and see your project. Take care and see you next time. Bye!